I'd like to call to order the December 19th meeting of the Clearwater City Council. Please join me in prayer, and then our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Hamilton. Holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal. O Lord our God, as we meet tonight for the last meeting of this calendar year, we offer to you our thanks for all that has been given to us as an individual, a family, and a community. And if I myself have hurt or been unfair to any colleague or citizen, I ask for their forgiveness and for yours. O Lord our God, as we lift up our prayers to you, we also remember those employees of the city of Clearwater, John Merle, Ron Brown, and Ralph Shaw. Grant them rest in a place where there's no pain or sorrow or sighing, but everlasting life, and give strength to their families during this holiday season. O Lord our God of our yesterdays, our today, and our tomorrows, who created all things and established seasons to mark the year, bless this holiday season and new year that approaches with your unseen hand. Help us to fret less and to laugh more, to enjoy every sunrise and to give thanks for every sunset. Grant us favorable weather, the abundance of the fruits of the earth, and peace in the world. O Lord our God, let us also remember that whether we call you the Christ, Yahweh, or Allah, whether we look upon you as the anointed one, the chosen one, or the enlightened one, it is to you that we sing hymns, bless, praise, give thanks, worship, and ask for guidance in all and for all. And it's to you that we now entreat to sanctify our souls and bodies, that we may be worthy to receive your grace all the days of our life. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, as you probably can tell, I have a little cold. I went to the doctor today. She assured me that I am well. I'm not contagious, but I would like your help in trying to go through the agenda as quickly as we can. Let me also remind you that if you have a cell phone or other device that goes off, to please silence it. And because we try to conduct these meetings in a civil and respectful manner, audible or disruptive sounds are not to be made. Please show each speaker the same respect and courtesy you would want them to show you. To my left is Councilmember David Albrecht.
Good evening.
Councilmember Hoyt Hamilton.
Good evening.
Our City Attorney Pam Aiken.
Good evening.
And our City Clerk Rosemarie Call.
Good evening.
To my right is Councilmember Jay Poglaze.
Hello.
Councilmember Bob Cundiff.
Merry Christmas, folks.
Our City Manager Bill Horn.
Good evening.
Our Assistant City Manager Micah Maxwell.
Good evening.
Our first order of business is to recognize our Employee of the Month for December 2019, Kelly Calhoun from Information Technology. Kelly.
September 28, 2019, the MSB's power was shut down due to an upgrade to the electrical system scheduled by Building and Maintenance. The City of Clearwater gas system received the notice on Tuesday, September 24, 2019, and had to scramble to make sure we were going to be prepared as we house Utility Services Emergency Dispatch. This section operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and to have a situation with no phone service would be devastating to our operation. Kelly started to work on options immediately. She made numerous calls, emails, and visits, and made an observation that our dispatch phone would not be affected by the shutdown since it had the old exchange and did not feed through the MSB grid. After this discovery was made, she discovered that there was something wrong with our dispatch phone line, and it would require Frontier to repair it to make it work for the shutdown. Frontier reported that it would not be able to be repaired in time, so Kelly had to scramble again for options. At 3:45 p.m. Friday afternoon, Kelly was able to get Frontier to do a hard transfer of our dispatch line to our dispatch cell phone. That Saturday came and we were up and running with our cell phone, and the day worked out without a hitch, and our operation was able to catch all calls for service throughout the whole shutdown. Thank you, Kelly, for your hard work in keeping the Clearwater Gas System Service Dispatch operational, even when with all the obstacles that were thrown to you. Kelly Calhoun, Senior Telecommunications Analyst, December 2019 Employee of the Month.
This is for you. Well done. Thank you so much.
Kelly, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
One of the events that starts off the Christmas season here in Clearwater is the Arc of Tampa Bay Foundation's Festival of Trees. We have with us this evening Madison Orr Howenstein, who is the executive director, Kirsten Fitcham, the event co-chair, and Kim Curry, the event co-chair. And it looks like it's just Madison.
Tonight you get just me.
Okay.
Yes.
But you don't get any more time, Madison.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
You won't triple it for me. Well, good evening, everybody. I am here on behalf of everyone that is taken care of by the ARC Tampa Bay with intellectual and developmental disabilities to say thank you to you all as council members and the city of Clearwater at large for what you guys do to support the Festival of Trees. And really as a whole organization, you show so much to support to the ARC Tampa Bay and the ARC Tampa Bay Foundation. This year, we welcomed thousands of people and families into Festival of Trees at the Long Center to kick off the holiday season. I saw so many of you there, so thank you for coming. But it reminds me every year what a wonderful partnership we have with the city and the ARC, and you all believe so much in our services that we provide to people that you're willing to provide your resources to help us make it as successful as possible. And we did that this year. We are so proud of the money that we raised to support our programs and services, being able to have full access to the Long Center and your incredible staff that work there. Truly, they all are on the nice list this year. I heard from Santa, he was at Festival. He gave him the thumbs up, but they're so helpful to us, and they really show what teamwork is all about, and how you guys give that back to the ARC is wonderful. We strive through this event to teach as many people about the ARC as possible. We help out 300 people every day and thousands of family members who have nowhere else to go but an organization like the ARC Tampa Bay. And because of the city's support, we're able to do that in an exceptional way. We're so proud of the care that we can provide to these people, and your partnership really makes that possible through Festival of Trees for us. So I just want to say thank you so much for that. And I hope you know it's worth mentioning, if anybody here in the crowd has not been to the Long Center, I hope that's not many, But it's such a unique spot and such a gem in the city of Clearwater because you have this wonderful Parks and Rec department. The staff there is great. They welcome in all these folks for pickleball, which has just grown tremendously, and basketball and so many sports, and the swimming program is spectacular. And then you have these great nonprofits that there. You have the ARC, you have the Clearwater for Youth program, you have the Aging Well Center. And so to get all these different people and different walks of life together in one space, I think it speaks to what the city believes in and its programs and really makes it such a special spot to be. So we're proud to be tenants at the Long Center and to have their support and you all supporting us through what we do because it's a wonderful, wonderful home that we have found for these special people that we take care of.
Right.
So thank you guys and Merry Christmas to all of you.
Madison, thank you very much. Thank you for singling out the staff at the Long Center because I know that they look forward to this event every year and they do it from their heart, so we appreciate
Well, you have every level of individual that works at the Long Center was helpful to us. They're even down to taking out the garbage to helping us set up for the events. And they do it so happily because they understand what it's about. And so it's really special to know that, and you all should know, that the employees that you have there care so much about the community as a whole and not just their job there at the Long Center. And it's so touching for us to see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please give your staff, your clients, your family our love
I
from
will.
the City Council and wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
I will. Thank you all very much.
Council, next on our agenda is to recognize our Human Resources Director, Jennifer Poirier, who received the 2019 People First Award. You want me to read her?
Yeah, you're supposed to read it.
Why don't you read it?
You want me to read
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
So, well, so I don't, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Our Human Resources Director, Jennifer Poirier, was recently recognized by the Tampa Bay Business Journal and presented with the People First Award to honor her for her vital work as a human resources professional, which has positively impacted this Tampa Bay area organization, the City of Clearwater. Since joining the city in August of 2018, Jennifer already has a long list of accomplishments, including but not limited to the successful negotiation of three-year collective bargaining agreements, completion of a comprehensive classification and compensation study, the implementation of a diversity recruitment plan, creation of an expanded wellness initiative, and oversaw the creation of a citywide team building series. Jennifer, your energy, hard work, and dedication to the city is impressive, and we thank you for all that you do.
Council, why don't we go down in front, and I think Rosa will take a picture. Yeah.
Good.
Watch your steps here. Here you go, Jennifer. You got the rice over your head.
A little closer. 1, 2, 3.
Did you want to take a picture, Joe? Oh. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It's always special when somebody outside the community recognizes one of our own. So we all share in Jennifer's award and thank her for her dedication. Agenda item 4.4, Joelle Castelli.
Mayor and Council, Joelle Castelli, Public Communications Director. I'm going to present to you the Community Survey Report, which is a satisfaction survey that we do every 2 to 3 years. The survey overview, this is a survey that is a scientific survey. We participate in it with the National Research Center. So the benefit of a survey like this is that we do the same survey every other year, as well as we get to be compared to other benchmark communities that are in our same approximate size level. So we've done this survey in 2008, 14, 17, and 19. It measures the livability of Clearwater, so a great place to live, not just the city services, but what people think about our community. It's the National Research Center tool in conjunction with ICMA, the International City County Managers Association, and the benchmark communities are the size of 64 to 150,000 residents. So we sent out 3,000 surveys. We received 504 mail-in surveys with forward safety, mobility, natural environment, on quality of life. Quality of life is, in general, everybody has rated us as good. We have 80% that have rated us excellent or good, and the priorities for the community are safety and the economy. All 8 facets rated favorably, and we were similar to other benchmark communities. The community characteristics that are measured, are we an excellent or good place to live? And 83% rated that positive. Rated excellent or good as a place to raise children, a place to retire, and you'll see in here it says, in parentheses, it says higher, so that means we were higher than the benchmark. So one of the benefits of a survey like this is you have some regulatory divisions of the city, and those tend to rate low. Compared to police and fire, your code enforcement and some of the regulatory agencies that you have will rate lower. And so you'll see numbers like 40% as compared to 78%, and you'll think that's extremely low. But it's relevant when it's what all communities have for their regulatory agencies. So where code enforcement will rate in the 40s for us, that's the national benchmark. So there's nothing alarming about that number. So a place to retire is 80%, good or excellent, and that's higher than the benchmark. Their neighborhood as a place to live is 74%, the image and reputation of a city at 68%, and the appearance of our city at 72%. So in general, we were similar to the benchmark. There's 40 aspects that were rated positively for the community characteristics, strong and comparable to other communities. We got 70% positive marks for safety and natural environment. Some of the areas of the economy, there's some questions that rated, there's a couple of the economy ones that rated low. The cost of living, 35% thought that was excellent or good, so that we've seen some of that with our Alice report and some of our affordable housing challenges. So that 35% is not off the benchmark, and that is what other people are seeing nationwide. The vibrant downtown is also rated lower than the benchmark, but shopping and place to visit are good and higher than the benchmark. Ease of travel throughout our town is at 63%. Ease of travel by car, 52%. Traffic flow, 36%. Parking at 37%, which is lower than the benchmark. And public transportation also at 35%. Shopping opportunities is higher than the national benchmark at 72, and the quality of education at 59, and the quality of K through 12 at 53, which is lower than the benchmark. That is one of those things that we measure as part of this survey, but it's not one that we control. On governance, this is how well does your current government provide these services. So this is literally the services of the city rated by our residents. So it's things like police and fire and sidewalks and gas and utility and land use and code enforcement. So in general, positive ratings on 70% of the services. Positive ratings on the federal services, just for a comparable, is 46%. We're similar to the national average, and the city rating lower than the 2017 rating in general. So our ratings went down a little bit. Leadership and governance, all aspects rated positively, about half of them rated positively, and customer service for all of our employees rated at 69%, also similar to the benchmark. 25 services and amenities were rated for governance, and generally 4 in 10 residents rated everything positive. Similar to the benchmark, for all of those services except for drinking water. We consistently rate low for our drinking water taste and quality. The drinking water did rate higher in 2019 than in 2017, though. The highest rated departments and services that the city provides are always police and fire and emergency services, the safety areas, and the lowest rated, which, as I mentioned, is similar to the benchmark, is traffic, signal timing, land use, code enforcement, and economic development is a newer one that's come on that list as being lower. Then residents are asked about their level of participation. So what things do you do as a community? How are you involved with your community? How often do you hang out with your neighbors and have block parties, those types of things? 44% had a positive sense of community in Clearwater. Some of that could be attributed, in my opinion, to the transient nature of people not being born and raised here, and people moving in influx a lot in our community. There's 30 participation activities that they are asked about. One that we rated really high on, and I personally think this is because the timing of the survey this time was in September and October, was because we were in hurricane season, and previously it's in the spring, but we purposely waited for this survey because of some communications we were sending out about recycling. But we rated 82% said that they had stocked emergency supplies, which is higher than the benchmark, and less likely to carpool at 27%. So this is just a snapshot of our ratings over the time that we've done it, and then compared to the benchmark. So Place to Retire is the one that stands out significantly better than the other benchmark communities. Then with this survey, we have the opportunity to ask a special topic. So we always ask people for their sources of information. And local media is still the #1 source of information that our residents report on how they get their information. But if you notice that as a major source of information, the city website has surpassed local media. And I think this is the first time that that has happened. So the first column is major source and the second is minor. So when you add those two together, then you'll find out the big sources for the residents. Another thing that we wanted to point out on this slide is the utility bill stuffer is still something that people read. And Nextdoor, while we just started it a year ago, is a major source of information, more so than our Twitter and Facebook accounts. And we have several Twitter and Facebook accounts. So we find Nextdoor is a very valuable tool that we can get the information out, and we don't get trolled as much on Nextdoor as we do on some of the other social media channels. Then we asked people special questions about their recycling, mostly because we've had contamination issues, which nationwide everybody has had contamination issues. We've also been beefing up our communications to try to tell people what not to put in their recycle bin. So we started off with a special series of questions about recycling, and those came out after the second mailer went to homes about recycling. So we were testing our messages. And we asked them, how often do you recycle? So 54% said always, and 18% said usually. Then we asked them, if you do not recycle, so of the 20% that do not, we asked them why not. And we have some numbers here that we're going to delve into more and start more communications on, but 41% of the 20% who don't recycle said that they don't have a recycling bin. So if they are in a single-family home, they should have a recycling bin. So we've immediately started that communication. If you don't have a recycling bin and you live in a single-family home, here's what to do. If they live in a multifamily residence area or a condo, they're not going to have one unless their condo unit participates. So that may be some of the, I don't have a recycling bin, or I don't have the option. So we're going to work on some of those communications. And the next question we asked was, of the following materials, what does Clearwater accept in the recycling stream? And the things that have a green check are the ones that we do accept, and the ones that have a red, we do not accept. So Cardboard, metal cans, plastic containers, glass bottles, milk jugs, and mixed paper, pretty much people knew we accepted them, and we do. Plastic bags and plastic wrap are one of the big contaminators. So if you put things in a plastic bag and put it in your recycle bin, it's probably going to end up in the trash, in the waste stream. They don't take it out of the bag and put it in the recycling. So we need to continue that communication. And aerosol cans, we do recycle, and 42% said we do not. If they're empty, we recycle them. Styrofoam, recyclables within plastic bags, and electronics, we do not recycle. Now, electronics, if you have a special thing for us to pick it up on the side of the road, you can call us and we'll pick it up. But we do have the drop-off facility. So that was the next question we asked. Before taking this survey, how familiar were you with the city's electronic waste drop-off facility, which is the last Wednesday of every month on the Hercules Avenue's location? And 49% said they had never heard of it. So clearly we have more communications that we can do on that, and the mayor's good at announcing that whenever he can get that in at the end of the council meeting. But we know that we need to continue moving that information out. We asked them an open-ended question. If there was any recycling changes that you could make, what would they be? So some people said expand what you accept. Some people said make it mandatory. Some people said nothing, it's great as is. So the key takeaways are, in general, positive quality of life in Clearwater, and residents think that livability and cost as potential future focus. We are a positive place to live with great amenities. The economy as an area of opportunity. Some people see that maybe as an area for growth. Governance and service delivery are strong and stable. Our customer service skills are good, and we are similar to other benchmark communities. And the communication of recycling messages that we just heard. So with that, that is my last bit of information. If you have any questions, there's hundreds of pages of data. So let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Castelli? Okay, thank you very much. Now, y'all are going to be using this during the year to help make some improvements, and you had focused on the recycling. And so since you mentioned about the electronic waste drop-off, we're not dropping off next Wednesday, correct?
That's correct.
Right, December, it's the last Wednesday is Christmas, yeah. So it'll be in January. Good way to start the new year. Thank you, Joelle.
Thank you.
Ms. Castelli, thank you. Counselor, are there any addition or corrections to the minutes of December the 5th?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of December the 5th. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda? If so, please come forward at this time. You would have 3 minutes to speak. We'd ask that you give us your name and make sure that the clerk has a card from you.
I've been struggling also, Mayor, so bear with me. My name is Sarah Brown Caudell. I have been in downtown all 74 years of my life. I've seen millions spent on studies, all with words like jumpstart, catalyst, revitalization, etc. I've seen small and large business owners come and go, many with hopes and dreams dashed. The beautification and/or build it they will come mentality has never done anything to make downtown boom again. It has to coincide with shops, convenient parking, and public garages. A multi-car tram should run continuously, picking up people to take them up and down the hill to Coachman Park, to and from the marina and downtown business areas. Our bayfront does need improvement, but I do not believe in selling or swapping our bluff or below properties to anyone. We should retain them. They all belong to the city taxpayers of this city. When you send out the request for proposals nationally to developers to consider the bluff properties for multi-use, do so with reconsideration for a hotel and convention facilities, shopping, restaurants, and bars on leased bluff land. I voted to redo Coachman Park, but since the original meetings, things changed. I did not vote for a pagoda. I suggest instead a large American flag flying over a sculptured monument dedicated to veterans, police, and first responders. The pedestrian overpass. I was told at a public meetings that tall trees will be planted so viewing from the overpass to look at the stage or sunsets will be impeded. I know the 4,000 seats will be sold, but what about other times when 6,000 or more people show up? Will they have a view from the pedestrian overpass? If they don't, why build it? We have had lakes before. This lake with bridge and pagoda takes up a large area that would better be used for people attending. I also believe in keeping the name Coachman Park, not Coachman Commons. A way to bring both ends of Cleveland Street together is to remove the islands from the center and have angle and horizontal parking on all of Cleveland Street. With a straightened street, parades could once again be from the east end all the way to Coachman Park. All of Clearwater would come and enjoy a parade for veterans, Fun and Sun, Christmas, MLK, LGBTQ, Cinco de Mayo, and more. I'm going to speak to you from my heart. I would like for council, staff, and Mr. Miscavige to open your hearts and put back a little of our city's grassroots. I cannot imagine that Mr. Miscavige and parishioners that own property
Thank you,
downtown.
Thank you, ma'am, your time is up.
Can I just finish?
Thank you, ma'am, your time is up. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda?
I'll tell you what, I'd like to give you all this,
Okay.
I'll take it.
because the last part was pretty good, and I only had 3 sentences.
No, just give it to the clerk, she'll get it to all of us.
Sorry.
But if I let you go over, then I have to let everybody go over.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Bill Jones, and I did fill out a card. I have 3 things I want to cover very quickly tonight. A month ago, I spoke to you about my experience at Moccasin Lake Nature Center and what a wonderful facility that is, and suggested that the city try to expand that if there's opportunities. I learned that there is a potential opportunity, and I shared that with the city manager, and he kindly looked at that feasibility a little bit and said there's some property concerns with the property title perhaps, but on the other hand, it's not included in the master plan for Moccasin Lake. And so it would be up to the rest of you to say, Mr. City Manager, will you at least look at that? And I would suggest that that be something that you would do. The second thing is, I understand you're going to be talking about Imagine Clearwater comments, or Imagine Clearwater at the end of the meeting tonight, but not taking public comments there. So I just wanted to briefly say I did send you some correspondence earlier in the week based on what we saw at the public meetings. I'd like you to consider that as you move forward. And the last thing I'd mention is that I've been through several of the rec centers and some of their holiday parties, and one that I'd like to really highlight is the Lake Bellevue community. The staff has really been working hard with that community, and I believe the community has responded quite well. And so I would commend you and encourage you and all of the city staff to continue that wonderful effort down there to really kind of make that a special part of the Clearwater too. So with that, thank you. Wish you a happy holidays.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda?
Kelly. I would like to see a citywide contest to name Coachman Commons. I think we have a lot of creative people in Clearwater, and it would draw people, engage people as they come together for the park.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda? If not, I will.
Kathleen Beckman, can we speak on Imagine Clearwater at the end of the agenda where it is?
No.
No?
It's a presentation. There are no votes scheduled on that.
All right. Forgot my glasses, but. I want to start by thanking the city for listening to residents and hiring our first sustainability coordinator earlier this year. I appreciate too that the city has taken the initiative to change out some of its lighting to more energy efficient LED lighting. Tonight I would like to comment on the design being proposed so far for Imagine Clearwater. I am a strong advocate for our environment, so while I'm excited about some of the elements of the design, I see key elements missing, especially concerning energy efficiencies and solar. At the same time, we prioritize the potential economic value and social enjoyment of the design. We should also demonstrate how we prioritize sustainability of our environment and financial responsibility. Solar is a great example of how we can incorporate creative, inspiring designs into a prominent area of the city while helping to reduce pollution and save our city large sums of money. Other cities are doing this. Tampa at the Florida Aquarium and St. Pete on their new pier. They are including solar because it saves money and reduces pollution. Often, utility companies are looking to partner with cities to install solar on showcase locations. And when St. Pete partnered with Duke, they agreed to execute a lease for a solar car canopy on a portion of the pier's parking lot. These solar panels on a portion of the St. Pete Pier parking lot will maximize energy production to generate enough energy to power a minimum of 40 homes per year. The project will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 400 metric tons per year, and that's like taking over 100 cars off the road each year or freeing up over 400 acres of forest to absorb other harmful emissions. These are fantastic stats that illustrate positive steps towards protecting our environment. Clearwater needs to be setting a good example, being good stewards of our community. Residents, new businesses, and tourists are looking for these types of creative, functional, and responsible designs and solutions. Residents are also looking for new buildings to be built to energy efficiency standards. I urge you to require leadership in energy and environmental design level standards in all of your RFPs. Please don't leave this to chance. Clearly require that these elements be included in the upfront design. History shows that without energy efficiencies and renewable energy sources and sustainability initiatives being included in the requirements, it will be likely that they will not be considered at a later stage of the project. Thank you.
Make sure you've had a card that's filled out. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda? If not, I will close public comment and move to the consent agenda. Items 7.1 through 7.14. Anybody from council or public wishing to pull an item off the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.14?
Move approval of agenda items 7.1 through 7.14.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.14. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.1, Mr. Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. Declared surplus for the purpose of donation for development of affordable housing, 2 parcels of real property located at 1002 LaSalle Street and 1011 LaSalle Street. Approve the real property donation agreement between the city and Habitat for Humanity of Pinellas County, Inc., and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same together with all other instruments required to effect the closing. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Chuck Lane, Economic Development and Housing Department. These 2 properties are located in Clearwater's North Greenwood neighborhood on LaSalle Street between North MLK and Pennsylvania Ave. The city acquired both lots in lieu of collecting a debt on 2 housing loans several years ago. The properties are both identified on the city's list of properties that may be available for affordable housing. Council approved that list by resolution in June earlier this year. Habitat for Humanity will build a single-family home on each lot. Each home will, of course, be homeowner occupied. I'll take questions, please.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.1? Anybody from the public wishing to speak to agenda item 8.1?
I would move approval of agenda item 8.1. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.1. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.2, Mr. Horn.
Declare surplus for the purpose of donation for development of affordable housing, real property located at 912 Nicholson Street. Approve the real property donation agreement between the city and Emerge Community Economic Development Corporation, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same, together with all other instruments required to effect closing. Mr. Lane again.
This property is also in North Greenwood. It's west of the North Greenwood Recreation Center on Nicholson Street. This project will be with Emerge Community Economic Development Corporation. It's a small nonprofit we're hoping to do more business with. They'll build a home for sale to a family in the income range up to 120% of area median income. Questions, please?
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.2? Mr. Cundiff.
How did this property come to be into the city's possession?
We did a land swap with a nonprofit housing developer. There was actually a pipe in the ground, a stormwater pipe that we used. It's been abandoned, so now the property is available for surplus.
Any other questions, council? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.2?
I move to approve agenda item 8.2.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.2. Comments, council?
I just have one comment.
Mr. Cundiff.
I just wanted to thank Economic Development and Housing for taking surplus property when it comes into our hands and using it for affordable housing. I know it's not at all the first time this has happened, and I do appreciate it, and those who are going to be living in those homes appreciate it too. Thank you.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.3.
Approve the City of Clearwater's fiscal year 2018-2019 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, otherwise known as CAPER. Mr. Lane.
I'm going to use a brief PowerPoint to present the Housing Division's Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. Of course, that's the CAPER. By December 31st of each year, the city is required to submit the CAPER to HUD. It's our year-end report of our accomplishments made with the use of Community Development Block Grant Program funds and Home Investment Partnership Program funds. As a reminder, the four-year consolidated plan adopted in 2016 by Council establishes 5 goals of these HUD-funded programs. These goals address priority needs in the community and federal statutory requirements surrounding housing, homelessness, non-homeless special needs, community development and public services, and economic development. The CAPER documents the outcome indicators of each goal. The report also briefly summarizes the activities accomplished with funding from the State Housing Initiative Partnerships Program and the Pinellas County Housing Trust Fund. So the resources and expenditures for the federal programs include entitlement from CDBG and Home. Entitlement funds are formula-driven amounts that are provided directly from HUD to communities, entitlement communities like Clearwater. The entitlement numbers have remained steady over the last several years. In 18-19, we received nearly $741,000 in CDBG and $383,000 in Home. We carried over nearly $1.4 million in prior year funds, received approximately $131,000 in program income, which is primarily generated from the repayment of loans under our home program activities. We also have a revolving loan fund that we can use for housing and economic development activities. The city expended approximately $1.4 million of these available funds, leaving a balance of just over $2.4 million. Most of the fund balance is home money. We're working on some multifamily projects that will use up a chunk of this balance over the next year or two.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.3? Anybody from the public speak to agenda item 8.3?
Still got a ways to go.
I'm sorry?
We still got a ways to go.
Wasn't completed. I could wrap up.
Oh,
I have more
it
slides.
sounded like you were finished.
No, I was just changing the page. And to take a breath. Aside from our federal funds, the city's also expended over $930,000 in state housing initiative partnership funds and Pinellas County Housing Trust funds. And as we've done in the past, for the past several years, we provided a total of $235,000 to several agencies, partner agencies, to help us carry out our homeless initiative. When we use home funds on housing projects, we're required to provide a 25% non-federal match. We use SHIP and county trust fund primarily for that match. Our match requirement in the report year was $178,000. Most of the community development program and housing programs the city administers are intended to leverage private funds. Our expenditures with federal funds alone leverage nearly $770,000 in private investments. Our community development and housing programs are all about providing assistance to people and households. You can see our partnerships with public service providers really allows us to reach the largest amount of Clearwater residents. And this slide shows you the number of people and households we assisted with the state and local funds. As you all know, we couldn't serve the number of people we serve without partnerships. These are our public service partners for the report year. They play a role in assisting and carrying out our programs and providing services to our community. They are RCS Pinellas, Homeless Emergency Project, also known as Homeless Empowerment Program, Maddie Williams Neighborhood Family Center, West Care Gulf Coast Legal Services, Pinellas Opportunity Council, and Intercultural Advocacy Institute, also known as Hispanic Outreach Center. We fund home buyer education at the cost of $70 per class per person. We partnered with 3 organizations this year to deliver these classes to Clearwater residents: Clearwater Neighborhood Housing Services, Tampa Bay Community Development Corporation, and Housing and Education Alliance. 153 Clearwater residents completed this program this year. Under our economic development activity, Tampa Bay Black Business Investment Corporation and Prospera provided technical assistance to business owners and hopeful entrepreneurs. We use CDBG to fund 5 public facility improvements to benefit Clearwater residents: Our Club Child Care, St. Vincent de Paul Community Kitchen and Resource Center, Directions for Living, HEP, and we started a project with the Arc of Tampa Bay. The project was completed in this fiscal year. And just some pictures of some public facilities improvements we funded in 1819. This is Directions for Living facility. It was an underutilized storage area converted into a conference room and training center. And this is Beatty Villas. They completed the rehabilitation of 16 units on their campus. It's a, it's a permanent supportive housing facility. And these are our housing partners. Southport Financial developed Woodlawn Trail, an 80-unit apartment complex. The mayor, Dr. Cundiff, were at a ribbon cutting earlier this week. Madison Point is 80-unit senior project, over 55 on South MLK in our downtown. Community Service Foundation leased up 7 units in the Lake Bellevue neighborhood in support of their Going Home project. Habitat for Humanity has been a highly effective partner for us annually. And Bright Community Trust acquired a single-family home, rehabilitated it, and sold it to a qualifying home buyer. These are 2 homes that Habitat for Humanity built on North Garden, just up the road from the 12 units that were completed a year ago. And of course, the start and finish of our projects don't always neatly align with our fiscal year. We have a few projects that we began in 1819 and will be completed in the current or next fiscal year. Those 5 new construction units you see on the slide do not include the lock donations I just presented a moment ago. We have 4 home rehab projects in process. We're also in the planning stages on some exciting multifamily projects. And lastly, on December 10th, I presented the CAPER to the city's Neighborhood and Affordable Housing Advisory Board, and they passed a motion unanimously recommending council approval of the CAPER. HUD requires a 15-day public comment period prior to submitting the CAPER, and today is the last day of that public comment period. My presentation is now complete. I'll take questions, please.
I'm gonna go stand in the corner. Any questions? No way, y'all didn't have any questions earlier, so I assume no questions now. Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.3?
Move approval.
No, wait, somebody's coming up.
Somebody coming up?
We ask that you give us your name and make sure we have a card on file.
Sure. Kathleen Beckman. So I realize that affordable housing or workforce housing is incredibly complex, and I won't pretend to have any magic answers, but I was here for the presentation for the Affordable Housing Advisory Board and looked over that whole presentation as well. And there are some key points I think we need to be aware of as part of the last day of public comment, and I'm not sure how well advertised it is that people can comment on that report or take the time to read it. But Information to be aware of out of that report: 49% of Clearwater residents, 3% more than the county average, are living in a, quote, household insecure state. And Ms. Sanderson explained during that meeting that I was at, that's 3% more than the county average, are living in this housing insecure state. That these residents are just $400 away from a housing crisis. 17% of our residents live at or below the poverty level. 10,745 renters have a cost burden greater than 30% of income, and 5,365 renters have a cost burden greater than 50% of income. Among all income groups, 7,865 owner households have a cost burden greater than 30% of income, and 3,470 owner households have a cost burden greater than 50% of income. Remember, as Mr. Lane explained to me, or maybe not Mr. Lane, somebody on the board, these are household numbers. The number of people affected, the number of people in a household, is far greater. The most sobering sentence of that draft report is this: the city of Clearwater is a built-out community and lacks developable land for construction of new affordable owner-occupied and rental housing. These barriers continue to have a negative impact on projects and programs utilized to implement the city's stated strategies. And so it is, a huge problem, and I don't have any magic answers, but it does need to be addressed, and it does need to be a priority. And looking at those sobering numbers needs to be front and center. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to agenda item 8.3? If not, I will close public comment. Ask for a motion.
Move approval of agenda item 8.3. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.3. Comments, council? Mr. Kondo.
Just have one, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On one of the slides, and we went over it very, very quickly, on households and persons that we did assist with federal funds this past year. Over 100 households and 7,396 persons were assisted either with land acquisition, economic development, housing, public facilities, or public service. And I think we can be proud of that.
Any other comments, council? Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.3. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.4, Mr. Horn.
Approve the request from Edgewater Valor Capital LLC, the applicant, to vacate a portion of a 5-foot wide platted utility easement as recorded in Plat Book 31, page 12 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and a portion of a 10-foot wide platted alley as recorded in Plat Book 4, page 56 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and pass ordinance number 9352-20 on first reading. Ms. Kivett.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tara Kivett, Engineering Director. The applicant has requested that the city vacate a portion of a 5-foot wide platted utility easement and a portion of a 5-foot wide platted alley on the applicant's property. This will allow development of a condominium complex. As a condition of the proposed vacations, the applicant will grant the city a new 10-foot wide utility easement. All city stakeholders have reviewed the vacation request and the proposed new utility easement and have no objections. Any questions?
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.4? Ms. Kivett, had this been approved previously for another project on the?
Yes, back in '04, under a development order, there was a similar project where we had approved the same easement and, the same vacations. That development did not go through, so that was rescinded.
Okay, you may not be able to answer this question. Was the project the same size as the one that was considered now, or was it smaller or larger?
It was smaller. The proposed development was 62 units, I believe, at a height of 59 feet above the base flood elevation. This current development is larger than that.
Okay, thank you. The applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members Brian Ungst and Alan McDonald. My address is 625 Court Street, Clearwater, Florida. On behalf of the applicant, Edgewater Valor Capital LLC, This is a routine request for a vacation of an alleyway and a utility easement and relocation of that utility easement. It has been reviewed by all of the stakeholders, including Duke Energy, WOW, Frontier, Spectrum, Pinellas County, and all of them have no objection to this request. The city staff has no objection to this request and is in support of it. This alleyway and this easement are wholly contained on my client's property. No one else has any right to use them. No one else uses them. They don't impact anyone else in terms of the use of the alleyway or the easement. And you can see here, this is the proposed vacation of the 5-foot wide utility easement. This is the proposed vacation of the alleyway, and this is the proposed new location of the utility easement, again, with no objection from Pinellas County or any of the other stakeholders. As Mayor Critic has pointed out, this exact same easement vacation was approved. It was actually approved in 2006. It was unanimously approved by the City Council on that date, and it was a smaller parcel. The parcel was only 2.5 acres. This parcel is 2.913 acres. And so therefore you get the density difference. There are no extra density units allocated to this site. There's no density bonus or density pool. The density is 30 units per acre on the resort facility's highest portion of the site and 15 units per acre on the residential medium portion of the site. So the density was not before the CDB. It's not before the council. The density is a property right. What was before the CDB and was approved by the CDB 5-2 was an application for flexibility to move the density away from the neighborhood and move it closer to Edgewater Drive. And that was the increase in the height on the resort facility high portion. On the residential medium portion, the height is 38 feet above base flood elevation. On the resort facility high portion, the height is 86 feet above base flood elevation. In the prior approval, the height was 59 feet, but it was only 10 feet setback from the property line, which again was not the same property line because we got additional property over here. So I want to make it clear the property line was actually closer to over here, but there were single family homes on those properties. So as I've stated numerous times at the CDB and in front of the appellate court judge, the density was not at issue. It's a property right. What was at issue was how tall the building was going to be. And if the building was 50 feet, we could get a staff level approval without going to CDB. But that would be much, much closer to the neighborhood. So the request was for flexibility to move it away from the neighborhood. And that's where your height comes in. The height is actually 152 feet setback from the neighborhood. That's not before you, but I know it's a concern. So I wanted to go through it and discuss it. As you know, the CDB conducted a 7-hour hearing on this, approved it 5-2. It was appealed to Judge Francine M. Folks, who is a Division of Administrative Hearings officer. I'm not going to go through her entire ruling, but she did affirm the CDB and the city staff's interpretation and approval of the project. In 2004, the same thing happened where it was contested at CDB. It was appealed to DOA. The DOA judge came back and upheld the CDB's decision. And then, as I said, that easement vacation was approved unanimously by the council in 2006 without any public comment or concern. So I did want to go through the procedural history. I'll reserve the balance of my time for closing. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Any questions of the applicant at this time? Great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.4? Motion?
No, wait, somebody's coming.
Oh, I'm sorry. Make sure that you give us your name and you have a card filled out, please.
I have a card filled out, and I have a packet for council members as well as the mayor that I'd like them to look at during my presentation.
State your name.
My name is Carl Balducci, and
Speak up at the microphone, sir.
when you all get your packets. Carl Balducci, I am an affected party for the project we're talking about. I would like this alley not to be vacated so as to halt this development in its present design. The city planner on this project went on record with his conclusions against passing it, but was replaced and his replacement did not have those same concerns, even though nothing had changed. It is also my concern that this is not a winning proposition for all parties. The city will fill its coffers with a lot of property tax dollars, and the developer will become more of a multimillionaire, but at the cost of Clearwater, Edgewater community at large. The community has let its displeasure be known with over 1,000 man-hours of demonstrating at rallies and preparing for city meetings, as well as spending all the dollars it could muster to try to afford proper legal representation, what it could never afford or obtain. And rightfully so, as this project stands in present form, will permanently scar the pristine skyline of Edgewater Drive and Sunset Point Road, scenic corridors that, according to Clearwater's future land use guide, must preserve. Just as the first planner knew this project shouldn't pass, this project should have never passed the CDB either, as it is in violation of at least 3 of the 6 Section 3.914 criteria that it must meet. Those being that the proposed development should not significantly impair the value of adjacent property. And I want you to refer to the notes I gave you. They did not have any expert witness to state that it will or may not. In fact, their response says that it may impact the property at Sunnydale Drive. And they didn't, with substantial competent evidence, conclude otherwise. And then also, the proposed development shall be consistent with community character of the immediate vicinity and be in harmony with the scale and bulk. When Dean Falk asked twice, he was an affected party, when he asked Ellen Crandall twice, the substitute planner for the city, at the CD meeting, if it was consistent with the character of the immediate vicinity, she both times answered, yes, they are both residential. This is simply not an adequate response from the city planner to justify this project's current design. And I want you to refer to the CDB training manual, where it shows a picture of a large scale building, and it says that it is dramatically departs from the character of the neighborhood in terms of architecture, which we're not concerned with, and scale. Scale being one of the 6 criteria that must be met.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item on this item, agenda item 8.4? If not, do we have any further comments from city staff? Mr. Ongst?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just briefly address what Mr. Balducci discussed. These issues were thoroughly discussed at the 7-hour hearing. They were thoroughly addressed in the over 100-page application and resubmittal to the city, which was first initially filed on January 2nd, then resubmitted somewhere around April 15th. So there are hundreds of pages of supporting documents for the application. Section 3-914, and she said that upon review of the record evidence, the undersigned finds that the record before the board contains substantial competent evidence to support the board's decision that Edgewater Valor's application met the criteria in Section 3-914A, including the 5 criteria specifically contested by Edna. And then further down in paragraph 20, she said the city and Edgewater Valor's interpretation of the general applicability criteria was reasonable. Therefore, the board's application of those criteria to the record evidence before the board was not a departure from the essential requirements of the law. I only raised that because that's specifically what Mr. Balducci was discussing in his comments. This has been fully litigated and discussed. Again, this specific issue is not before you, but I do know it's a concern. This is a legislative item. What's before you is whether or not this unopposed by the stakeholders vacation of this 15 feet and relocation to the 10 feet will be approved just as it was in 2006 under very similar circumstances. Thank you.
Motion?
Since he got more than his 1 minute.
I'm sorry.
I would like
I'm
to-
sorry, sir. Your time is up.
Final.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve agenda item 8.4.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.4. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. The motion passes 4-1 with criticus in opposition. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9352-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating a portion of a 5-foot wide utility easement abutting the south line of lots 1, 2, and the west 34 feet of Lot 3, as shown on the plat for Sunnydale subdivision, is recorded in Plat Book 31, page 12 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and a portion of a 10-foot alley abutting the north line of lots 2, 6, 7, 8, and the west 40 feet of Lot 9, as shown on the plat for Sunset Point subdivision, as recorded on Plat Book 4, page 56 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
Move to pass ordinance 9352-20 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9352-20 on first reading. Comments, council. Council, I had voted against this. There's no prettier street in Clearwater than Edgewater Drive. How we have a hotel there and a tourist designation is beyond me. That's a residential neighborhood. It always has been. And while I am confident that this project is going to look very good, I try to be consistent, and I have voted against projects like this in the past, and I'm just not comfortable doing it on this one. Motion has been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9352-20 on first reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Motion carries 4-1 with criticus in opposition. Agenda item 4.5.
Approve amendments to the Community Development Code to adopt the International Property Maintenance Code with certain local amendments in Section 3-1502 in place of Chapter 47, Article 7, Unsafe Buildings and Systems, and Chapter 49, Housing Code, expanding the powers of the Building Flood Board of Adjustment and Appeals to hear violations and appeals related to the International Property Maintenance Code, and pass ordinance number 9349-20 on first reading. Ms. Clayton.
Good evening.
And before you start, Ms. Clayton, Mr. Pugliese reminded me this is agenda item 8.5, not 4.5.
Thank you.
Thank
Gina
you.
Clayton, Planning and Development. This amendment to the Community Development Code is relating to building maintenance standards and essentially accomplishes three things. The first and most important one is that it adopts the International Property Maintenance Code with some local amendments, and it replaces the city's existing unsafe building and housing code found in chapters 47 and 49 of our Community Development Code. This change is proposed as the city's current unsafe building abatement code adopted in 1985 and the housing code adopted in 1991 are in fact no longer in print. The organization that prepared those codes, the SBCCI, moved away from those codes and in 1998 worked on this property maintenance code, which is used throughout the country. The proposed ordinance locates the proposed amendments in Section 3-1502, which is where we house all of our property maintenance standards, and this ordinance will repeal Article 7 of Chapter 47 and all of Chapter 49. Another important change associated with the adoption of the International Property Maintenance Code is that it provides building maintenance standards for commercial properties and residential properties, whereas the current code only really addresses housing issues. The proposed third change that I want to highlight expands the powers of the Building Flood Board of Adjustment and Appeals to hear violations of the International Property Maintenance Code and order repairs and demolitions to bring those properties into compliance. Their powers at present are really just limited to hearing appeals of a building official's decisions related to unsafe buildings. And that's really what's the main thrust of the ordinance, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any
you may
questions
have.
for Ms. Clayton on 8.5? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.5?
Move approval of agenda item 8.5.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.5. Comments, council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9349-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending Section 3-1502 of the Clearwater Community Development Code to adopt the International Property Maintenance Code 2018 edition with certain local amendments, amending Section 3-2304 of the Clearwater Community Development Code to remove reference to the Standard Housing Code and replace with reference to the International Property Maintenance Code 2018 edition, amending Section 3-2305 of the Clearwater Community Development Code to remove reference to the Standard Housing Code and replace with reference to the International Property Maintenance Code 2018 edition, amending Section 47.033 of the Clearwater Community Development Code to expand the powers of the Building Flood Board of Adjustment and Appeals, amending Section 47.051 of the Clearwater Community Development Code to adopt the Florida Building Code, repealing Chapter 47, Article 7 of the Clearwater Community Development Code in its entirety, repealing Chapter 49 of the Clearwater Community Development Code in its entirety, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
I move that we pass ordinance 9349-20 on first reading.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9349-20 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.1 is a second reading. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9343-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the east side of Owen Drive, approximately 365 feet north of State Road 590, whose post office address is 1725 Owen Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt ordinance 9343-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9343-19 on second reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.2, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9344-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use elements of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the east side of Owen Drive, approximately 365 feet north of State Road 590, whose post office address is 1725 Owen Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater Residential Low, RL, and Water Drainage Feature Overlay, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt ordinance 9344-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9344-19 on second reading. Comments, council? Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.3, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9345-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the east side of Owen Drive, approximately 365 feet north of State Road 590. His post office address is 1725 Owen Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt ordinance 9345-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9345-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.4, Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9351-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating a 20-foot wide alley described as all of the platted alley abutting lots 6 and 7 of Block D, as described in the plat titled McVeigh subdivision, as recorded in Plat Book 30, page 83 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
Move that we adopt ordinance 9351-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9351-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.5, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9353-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, submitting to the city electors proposed amendments to the city charter, amending section 2.01 D5 to increase the size of city-owned real property that may be donated or sold for less than fair market value to 5 acres for the purpose of workforce housing, to allow donation or sale for less than fair market value of uneconomic remainders to adjacent property holders after a public hearing, providing an effective date.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 9353-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9353-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.6, Ms. Cole.
Ordinance number 9354-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, submitting to the city electors proposed amendments to the city charter, making non-substantive organizational amendments to the city charter, deleting section 2.01 D 8 because it has expired, amending section 2.06 C to be consistent with state law, amending section 3.03 F to require the city manager to submit to the council a report on the state of the city every November, providing an effective date.
I would move to adopt ordinance 9354-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9354-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.7, Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9355-19, an ordinance, is that the right ordinance? Yes. An ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, submitting to the city electors proposed amendments to the city charter, amending section 7.02, general provisions, to require the council to appoint a charter review advisory committee at least every 8 years, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt ordinance 9355-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance 9355-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 10.1, Mr. Horn.
Amend the Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Chapter 25, Public Transportation Carriers, Article 1, Public Conveyances, to define commercial megacycles and definitions to establish standards for commercial megacycles, to require a license for commercial megacycles to be operated in the city, and to add penalties, and pass ordinance number 9356-20 on first reading. Mr. Halios.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Jim Halios, Assistant to the City Manager. The item that we're bringing for you tonight is a revision based on your direction of the map from the item that was brought forth at the work session on Monday. And this map excludes the residential areas which are east of Gulf Boulevard on the Clearwater Point area. And all other related information based on the map is correct and current as of the discussions that were had on Monday. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 10.1? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 10.1? Please come forward, give us your name. You would have 3 minutes to speak, and make sure we have a card that is filled out.
Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. My name is Clayton Irwin. I'm here about trying to get the beer and wine only approved on the pilot program for the megacycles. I did my own survey in the beginning when I first started this venture. Because I had a feeling it might not go through, and I kind of felt it out and see how people would feel about having alcohol, not having alcohol on the megacycles. It wasn't good. I don't think I found one person that said, oh yeah, they wouldn't bother us at all. The whole part of the program is to have a beer or a glass of wine while you're on the party bikes and while you're going around seeing the city pedaling. It's kind of the fun, it's excitement, just adds to it. One of the things that if we could allow it just for like maybe a short time of the pilot period where you guys could say, all right, this is going to work or it's not going to work, that's fine with me. I don't think because of the cost of the bikes and how much it costs to operate these things, I think the reviews on Facebook and Yelp would just kill the program for me. I don't think I would be able to move forward unless that was actually a part of the bikes. But I would be willing to do the pilot program with it if you guys could allow it. Because we're going to monitor it. We have very well-trained staff that's going to make sure everybody stays in check. It's going to be still family-friendly. There's not going to be any swearing allowed. None of the alcohol will be allowed to leave the bikes. It's all going to have to stay on. We fall under the same rules as a limousine because it's a 16-passenger bike. And we will have to follow the exact same rules as a limousine. I just want the city to kind of like give it a shot, and if you guys tell me later down the road, this is not gonna work out for us, either you pull the alcohol or get the bikes off the beach, and that's where we'll go from there. I'll find another market for it. But this is the market I want. This is where I live. I'm very passionate about the city, as you all know, and I hope that you guys would, see it through. I really appreciate everything. So, thank you guys.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to agenda item 10.1? Motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 10.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.1. Comments, council?
Yes.
Mr. Hamilton?
City Attorney, as Mr. Irwin pointed out in what he said, these are governed the same or viewed the same as a limousine as far as the state is concerned, correct?
Not exactly, but the exemption is the same.
The alcohol exemption. Because, I mean, I understand and what Mr. Irwin is saying, these are called pedal pubs for a reason. Because it's customary and common, common on with these vehicles to have alcohol on board. I know the mayor is against these all the way around because of our beach community, but I look at our beach kind of as in a different light in that we're the #1 beach for many reasons, one of which is the diversity of what we have out there. If you want to stay in a 4-star property, we've got them. You don't want to be in a 4-star, you want to be in something a little lower than that, we've got them. You want to eat in a fine dining restaurant, we've got that availability. You want to do a very casual meal, we've got that availability. You want to rent a little scooter, which I do not like, but we allow them, the little 3 wheels with the little flag sticking up, and they'll go darting in and out of everywhere. We allow those because for a tourist, it's fun to get in one of those and scoot around the beach and see what the beach has to offer. So this is just another offering that our market has an opportunity to provide. It's a 6-month program, 6-month trial program. The operator is going to be responsible for the behavior and the actions of the vehicle. So if they don't do it right, they're going to hear about it very quickly. And, I just think I'm not as afraid of the alcohol being on this vehicle as I think some people are. I'm just not.
Mr. Albritton?
Yeah, I've been in other cities around, and people actually have a lot of fun on these things, and it's not a raucous thing. They're families. I've seen them go up and down. I've also seen them in the cities where they don't have alcohol, but not as a bouncing from pub to pub. More like a tour where they're pointing out historic landmarks, that kind of thing, and then maybe at night it turns into a pedal pub. I'm all for giving this a try, and I want the person that's making the investment in this be able to make it work. And it is a 6-month time frame, so I'm fine with doing a 6-month period. And if we find that it's not working out, but I know we're not the first one inventing the wheel here. I mean, this has been done with other cities all through the United States, and Clearwater Beach, it'd be nice to have that here.
Any other comments?
Okay.
Okay. Council, this isn't a question about having fun. This is a question about safety. This is a question about what our police department has said about no alcohol, not only on these pedal pubs, but also on the beach. We do have a reputation as a family destination. We got the #1 ranking in the country without the pedal pubs. I agree, if they're going to be there, you ought to have alcohol. But I don't agree that they need to be there. The information that was provided us says that these vehicles go 15 miles an hour if the person isn't drinking and concentrates completely on peddling the pub. And that was provided to us in a letter from Mr. Irwin earlier this summer. So now we're saying, oh, well, let's allow drinking on the pedal pub. So that means that it's going to go slower. And y'all know better than I do what the traffic is on the beach. And if you don't, let me remind you that on South Gulfview, at all hours of the day, there are delivery trucks in one of the 2 lanes blocking the traffic. And so now you're going to add a pedal pub that's going to operate from 10 o'clock in the morning until midnight. It makes no sense to me. If he wants to do a trial, let's let him do a trial with alcohol on the mainland and see what happens. Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.1. All in favor say aye.
Exactly what is it we're approving? Are we approving it with alcohol or without alcohol?
No, without.
Vote
The
this down.
ordinance is
Vote
drafted.
this down.
What is the process to amend the ordinance
You would make a motion to amend to allow alcohol.
Okay, I will make a motion to amend the ordinance to allow alcohol.
Second.
During the 6-month pilot period on these motorcycles.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any questions? Chief, why don't you come up here? If you don't mind, sir. What are your concerns?
My concerns are, and I guess I get a little confused with some of the conversation, is we are constantly in a battle of trying to balance this tourist residential district and trying to keep that family atmosphere you're talking about. We could certainly make it fun for everybody and take away the alcohol ordinance entirely and have alcohol. We already have plenty of legal opportunities for people to partake in alcohol. Our concerns are, as these vehicles, there's always this conversation that this person will be responsible for governing it and controlling it, but it's going to be a business. And once it gets thrown out there to start, it's going to try to survive. And whether people are getting a little bit out of control, we're going to do whatever people are going to do whatever they got to do to keep the business model running and to make money. I have concerns that as we're driving around through the neighborhoods drinking, sure, our perception is everybody's going to be a lawful drinker, not getting excessive, but I think we all know that people will get excessive. No different than any other nightclub or bar that we already have on the beach that we're already dealing with at the close of business. It's one additional item that I just think will cause an additional disruption as people are driving down, hootering, hollering, drinking. I think it's unnecessary. But I say that's my recommendation. My police department is an implementer of policy, not a maker of policy, and whatever the council decides tonight, we'll be more than happy to implement with success.
I appreciate that, Chief. Ms. Aiken?
If we could also talk for a moment about what we would have to do to make that change. So, Mr. Smith, if you can.
Certainly, Council Matt Smith, City Attorney's Office. This would not be a simple cross-out. We would have to amend 6.31 of our ordinance. And then the council would want to consider what alcoholic beverages you would want, because if you left it up to the state statute, then you would have, in 1936, it says alcoholic beverage, which is any alcoholic beverage. So if you wanted to restrict it to beer and wine, you would have to put that in the ordinance as well. So this is not going to be a simple cross out tonight. It's going to be, tell us what you want in the ordinance and we'll prepare it for you.
Okay.
Exactly.
So do we need to?
I would say beer and wine is what you would allow.
Do you want us to postpone consideration of this ordinance until our meeting in January?
I would prefer that you give us direction if you know what direction you want to go, and so that in January, we will bring you back the corrected ordinance and the other ordinance that we need to implement that, because we do have to change a code provision currently in existence.
Okay.
So if you can give us direction, then we can be back in January.
All right, let me make sure we have 3 people who want beer and wine to be served. Okay, there's your answer.
Okay. So you are not approving this tonight, and you are going to...
Can we move to postpone consideration until January the 16th?
Are we going to need a new title?
Yes.
We're going to have to do a new title. So if you want to reject this, then we're going to have to come back with a new title anyway.
So you want us to vote this down tonight?
I think that probably would make sense.
It's kind of advertised, so we should vote.
Yes,
Okay.
and
All
then
right.
we'll bring a new one.
So, Mr. Hamilton, let me ask that you pull your amendment.
Okay,
Okay, and Mr. Albritton or Mr. Pogley, your second.
I retract this.
Okay, so that now the vote is on agenda item 10.1 as submitted. If you vote yes, it's to go forward without beer and wine. If you vote no, it will come back to us in January. Okay? Again, any other comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
It's 4-1. My lucky number today. Agenda item 10.2.
Authorize the negotiated sale of not to exceed $25 million in water and sewer revenue refunding bonds, Series 2020, and adopt Resolution 19-37.
Clem Derrico, Finance Department. Good evening, Mayor, Council. This agenda item authorizes the negotiated sale to Raymond James and Associates of a not-to-exceed $25 million water and sewer revenue refunding bonds for the purpose of refunding the currently outstanding 2014 bonds. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 10.2? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 10.2?
I move to approve agenda item 10.2.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.2. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Resolution number 19-37, a resolution authorizing negotiated sale of not to exceed $25 million City of Clearwater, Florida Water and Sewer Revenue Refunding Bonds, Series 2020, awarding the sale thereof to Raymond James and Associates, Inc., subject to the terms and conditions of a purchase contract, approving the form of and authorizing the execution and delivery of a purchase contract, providing for the issuance of Series 2020 bonds in a book entry-only form, authorizing the distribution of a preliminary official statement and official statement in connection with the delivery of bonds, providing for compliance with continuing disclosure agreement, appointing a paying agent and registrar, approving the form of and authorizing the execution and delivery of a paying agent and registrar agreement, providing certain other matters in connection with the issuance and delivery of such bonds, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt resolution 19-37.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt resolution 19-37. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 10.3.
Accept a natural gas easement over, under, across, and through a portion of property conveyed by NNP Bexley LLC whose principal address is 777 South Harbor Island Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, given in consideration of receipt of $1 and the benefits to be derived therefrom, and adopt resolution 19-41. Mr. Langill.
Good evening, Brian Langill, Assistant Director for Clearwater Gas System. This is an easement that we've been granted to allow us to extend our gas main along Tower Road up in Pasco County. This segment, it's actually 3 different segments along the path of Tower Road, east of Ballantrae Boulevard and west of Sun Lake Boulevard. This will allow us to install our gas line to serve a subdivision called Del Webb, which is currently being served by CNG fuel right now.
Any questions of staff on 10.3?
One question.
Mr. Kunda.
This is a question we didn't ask on Monday. What are the benefits to be derived therefrom, and who receives those benefits?
Oh, the owner.
And what?
We have the benefit, we will be able to operate our utility line within that easement for as long as we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 10.3?
Move approval of agenda item 10.3.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.3. Comments, council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Resolution number 19-41, a resolution of the City of Clearwater accepting a gas utility easement from NNP Bexley LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of city gas utility facilities, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt resolution 19-41.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt resolution 19-41. Comments, council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 10.4.
Accept a natural gas easement over, under, across, and through a portion of property conveyed by Brian Craig Bexley, successor trustee of the Bexley Rand Land Trust, whose principal address is Post Office Box 10, Sumter, Florida, given in consideration of receipt of $1 and the benefits to be derived therefrom, and adopt resolution 19-19. Mr. Langill again.
This is the other segment that's along Tower Road as well. It had to be a separate item, a separate easement, since it's owned by a different owner.
Questions on 10.4? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 10.4?
I move to approve agenda item 10.4.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.4. Comments, council.
Question?
Mr.
I'm
Hamilton.
curious why the previous resolution was 19-41 and this one is 19-19. Shouldn't this one be like 19-42? I don't understand how we go all the way back to 19.
But when we request the resolution numbers, those were the 2 numbers that we got. They were requested at the same time.
I thought they were like,
At the same time?
I thought they were consecutive.
We
The
do
other
get
numbers
them
were
out
taken.
consecutively, and typically this would have been asked for quite some time ago with that number. So 19-19 is the number.
That explains it.
This may be old.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.4. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Resolution number 19-19, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, accepting a gas utility easement from Brian Craig Bexley as successor trustee of the Bexley Ranch Land Trust for the construction, installation, and maintenance of city gas utility facilities, providing an effective date.
Move approval of resolution 19-19.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 19-19. Comments, council. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 10.6. Mr. Horn.
10.5.
10.5.
Approve co-sponsorship and waiver of requested city fees and service charges
I'm not even on
for
drugs.
fiscal year 2019-2020 for a new event sponsored by Clearwater High School, the Unity Walk, in the amount of $3,330, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chris Cook, Parks and Recreation, Manager of Events and Athletics. On Monday at the work session, we discussed the Unity Walk and coming to you guys for some support for that event. Tonight, we have some members from that event, the organizers, that are here to answer any additional questions that
that you guys might have. And I would like to introduce Lyric Williams to come up and talk a little bit about the event and let you guys ask any questions that she has.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Lyric, like he said. Behind me, I have some of my fellow classmates. We are civil rights ambassadors at Clearwater High School, and basically what we do is we study civil rights, but also have a lot of leadership roles around school and around campus. We plan a civil rights tour every year that's all student-led. We basically get to pick where we want to go, pick who we want to speak to. So this is my second year being an ambassador. So my first year, last year when we went on the trip, we kind of all debriefed and we had like this conversation that not other schools in our county kind of like have this program or like this class and kind of like do what we do and get to experience what we get to experience. So that's kind of like how we led into the whole Unity Walk idea and where we got it from, so that we can kind of get everyone together and kind of let other students and other schools get to see like what we do. And that's kind of where we got the idea to do this Unity Walk.
Okay.
So we just basically we're up here today just to say thank you for your guys' support and advice and helping us do this, because this is a big part of what we wanted to do as this class, to have the community come together. So we just want to say thank you.
Okay. Let me ask that y'all each introduce yourselves so that we will have the record as to who's speaking and to fill out a card, please.
I'm Kayla Bredesen.
I'm Josh Pandy.
I'm Lyric Williams. Carly May.
Javante Scott.
Great. Thank you very much. And if the clerk will give you a card to fill out so that we can have the record. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, can I ask one question?
Yes.
How many students are you all anticipating is going to participate in this?
About 800.
800 students
Yeah.
from across
The
the
county.
county.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Wow. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff, council on agenda item 10.5?
Move approval of agenda item 10.5.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.5. Anybody from the public to speak to this? Anybody else from the public to speak to this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Council staff asks that we take a...
We didn't get to make comments on that. We don't get to make comments on
I'm
that?
sorry.
Just a quick comment I would like to make. Mr. Masterides has been on the leading edge of youth and support, and the fact that you guys are here, you had to get approval from him to be able to do this. It's great to see young people in the community get involved and bring something positive. As you know, we hear a lot of negatives all the time, so the positive things that you guys are doing and the fact that you've been able to bring 800 kids across the county to Clearwater, well done. And thank Mr. Masterides personally for all of us.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Staff asks that we take a brief recess. They need to do some production work before the next presentation. So let's recess until 7:50. I'd like to reconvene the city council meeting of December the 19th. And I'm slowly getting a quorum to come forward.
Okay, we got a quorum.
And
There,
now have a quorum here. Agenda item 10.6. Mr. Horn.
Yeah, Imagine Clearwater Public Input Survey, Mr. Dell.
As Mayor, Council, Michael Dell, Assistant City Manager, we had a very successful series of public engagement meetings over the last several weeks. So we want to cover that very briefly, kind of a very abbreviated version of what we found. We have the entire citizen comments posted, and we'll provide you the link to that shortly. But in the meantime, I would like for the CRA director to come up and kind of walk us through what the feedback is, and then we'll give you, our future direction where we go from here.
Great, thank you. Amanda Thompson, CRA Director. And we're up here tonight because staff committed to having public information sessions at the 30, 60, and 90% design time. So we're reporting on those efforts tonight. The CRA took the lead in coordinating the design of the public outreach and working with all the departments, and there were many, many departments involved in this. Because we have the most direct interest in understanding what's going to bring people to downtown and supporting that programming. So big thank you to all the residents, big thank you to you guys who came to the sessions and to the staff who helped pull these off. I will start off and say that we did receive some comments about abandoning the project, abandoning downtown for whatever reasons, and the staff, we are not abandoning downtown. We are committed to seeing this project through. But I did want to acknowledge that we received those comments. So for those people who attended the in-person sessions, and you have the dates here, we had 5 in-person meetings. They saw a flyover video of the park design. There were display boards with staff standing next to them to answer questions. They had a project fact sheet. They also had a presentation. The library had the Oculus Rift headset so that you could actually walk through virtually the library renovations. And everything that was available at the meetings was available online through the website and social media in terms of the fact sheets and the fly-through video. So why we did so many sessions, it's not just about hearing a variety of comments, it's really to reach a variety of people. And seeing our high schoolers here, when we were at Countryside Mall, that was really the only time that we had people between, the ages of, say, 15 to 22 attending these sessions. So I think that was really important for us. Also, it gave the CRA an opportunity to advertise holiday extravaganza, right, and other downtown events, again, so people can get familiar with coming to downtown. So the survey, the goal was to enable really simple, quick feedback on the 30% design. We did not provide any contextual information other than the descriptions of the different areas. So we didn't have financial information. We didn't talk about level of programming. On the survey, you were simply shown this picture of the different areas and asked to rate between 1 and 3 stars, right? If it only was 1 star, more unfavorable, 3 stars, more favorable. And then at the end, you had an opportunity to fill in open comments, right? And while we wanted to use this information was to pass it along to the consultants if we had any design changes, right? And then determine what the public would like to know in the future. We did receive a comment that 5 stars might be more accurate representation of how people feel. Again, because we were looking for very simple, quick feedback on design, we felt that 3 stars was appropriate. If you attended the meetings in person, we had iPads available that you could fill out the survey there, or you could access it online. So who participated? We had 514 unique visits and 452 responses. And I think you've seen tonight with the passion of some people who've spoken, people spent 9 minutes on average filling this out. It didn't take them 9 minutes to click on a star. It was because we had 367 people, or 80% of respondents, fill in those open comments, which is wonderful. That is a wonderful amount of engagement, and you know that people are very invested in this project, which is good news for us. Interestingly, 196 people took it on a desktop, 166 mobile, and 90 on the tablet. So from an engagement standpoint and being able to reach a wide variety of people, this is good news that you don't have to come in person, right, or come to a meeting to share your comments, that you're able to do things through your desktop or mobile device. So average scores, and remember, this is just based on showing a picture, right, to get feedback on the design. You're seeing here they could, the highest you could score was a 3. So overall, pretty high scores when presented with the photos and the design. Pretty positive feedback there on the design. So comments broke out. Remember, we had many comments, you know, over 80, right, 81% filled out comments. So we went through those, read every single comment, and they really broke out into 3 areas: park design, park use, and financial impact. And what's important to note at this point at a 30% design, it's just that, it's 30%, it's not 100%. We don't know where handicap parking spaces are. We're considering, you know, elements like solar, but we don't have the exact location of those yet. So again, great that people are asking use questions and financial questions, and we are working on getting that information. So in terms of park design, I'm not going to read everything, but high level, want to preserve views of the water, right? Looking for more shade and green space. That was counterbalanced when we explained, some of this pavement is for supporting vendors during festivals or food trucks, and it was like, oh, okay, well that's an okay use, right, for hardscape. Accessibility for wheels, whether it be bicycles, strollers, wheelchairs. And one thing that came out pretty strongly is that the connection to Nagano is unclear. Right, so many people said, oh, I didn't know we had a sister city with Nagano, or where did this influence from, you know, Asian design come from? So it wasn't necessarily opposed to having a connection with Nagano, but we just need to do more education around that if we're going to continue down that path. So as we move towards the 60% design in this next phase, we will be addressing all of those issues. Right, how we can make it clear where bicycles go in and throughout the park, what those markings will look like, where there's drop-off areas for people who have movement disabilities, or simply have a lot of stuff, right? Whether it would be a mother with a bunch of kid stuff, or if you're using the marina and you have things to put on your boat, shades, and then looking at places where if the public would like more involvement in the public art, how can we preserve a space for that public art, and then what process would we follow to engage the community in determining what type of public art would go there. In terms of park use, lots of questions about park use, right? What kinds of shows? What will be the frequency of shows, right, and performance venue? Almost unanimously, strong desire for restaurant uses within and near the park. So looking at how will I have opportunities to eat and drink while I'm down here enjoying the water and the green space, etc. Very positive overall about the light and sound park activation. Comments around, will I be able to program the fountains or the lights with my phone, right? How do we make it more participatory? We hear you loud and clear on parking needs. That was mentioned at every meeting and throughout the survey. Lots of questions about how much parking is needed, where will I park, how will we handle parking for special events. Lots of love for the playground, and that's something that you don't have really within this area near to here, so huge support in the open comments for the playground, and that we need more details on the marina use. Right, again, we're not there yet, but we absolutely need to be able to answer that in future iterations. So again, as you see here from everything that we heard, this is what we're going to be working on providing in the future. There were several comments about populations of people experiencing homelessness as related to safety, right? How will I know that my kid will be safe on the playground, right, if a homeless person happens to be there. So we're going to be working with public safety, right, to address some of those issues while at the same time respecting everyone's constitutional rights. Lastly, financial impact. You know, and the largest question here is, you know, will residents and visitors use this park, right? And this is something that we're talking about all the time. And here's the area where the Church of Scientology came up. Will the Because Church of Scientology is located here, could that prevent people from utilizing this space? Therefore, we shouldn't make a public investment. Is this investment only to benefit the Church of Scientology, right? So many, many comments came up about that, and we reiterate that, this went through a publicly approved process where a majority of people said, we want this public investment and we will use this public investment. Lots of concerns about the financial impact of the amphitheater, the performance venue, right? How will that work? What do those numbers look like? Which we're in the process of answering. Really a big desire that programming should benefit downtown overall. And I think you've already heard this. We continue to hear this, the balance between the everyday use, right, of people who live here and more tourist-driven attractions and activities. And again, cultural activities, restaurants, looking at housing on the bluff, and as you heard tonight, people want more information about how ownership of those bluff properties is going to work. So we'll be addressing those. You'll have a financial model coming in January, right? We're going to be doing a request for qualifications for the redevelopment, and then we're still sorting through and working on what entity will really manage and operate the park and the different venues within the park. I have 2 more slides. We'll be finished. And the name Coachman Commons, this turned out to be more debated than we thought it would be here. So it got an average score of 1.9. So there was definitely almost a 50-50 split when you look at the breakout. And again, as Mr. Delk said, the survey's results are available online, so you can read through for yourself. People universally love the idea of the park having one name. Love that. They love the idea of something that says this belongs to the community. So we had overwhelming agreement on those 2 items. We had comments that people think the word commons sounds too old-fashioned, sounds like something from the Northeast, sounds like a commercial development, a college dormitory, a shopping center, an apartment complex. There was also some agreement that respondents would really like citizen involvement in renaming the park. We didn't get, you've heard the main suggestion for renaming the park, the Magical Mystery Park. That there weren't many other names suggested beyond that gentleman's suggestion. So I don't know that the citizens want to necessarily name the park, but they're looking for some involvement around the naming. But as of right now, unless council directs differently, we'll be going, Mr. Delk will be going to the Parks Board in February to discuss the naming issue again. So with that, the results are available at this email address. More information can be found at imagineclearwater.com. I know Mr. Delk's going to talk more about our next steps, and also happy to answer any questions about the results if you have any.
Thank you.
I'm just going to wrap up, Mayor and Council, by saying, one, I think the Parks Board meeting is January, I believe, is when the Parks Board meeting will. So with that, as Amanda mentioned, we're going to bring you financial. We're working on those numbers right now for January. The request for qualifications related to the Bluff properties, we're looking at, we're preparing now for January, February discussion with you. Regarding the some emphasis areas for Stantec moving forward, continue to refine the public safety considerations, and we've had both police and fire already weigh in and look at the plan, but we're going to continue to focus on that. Sustainability, and we've had a list of sustainability items given to the consultant by our Sheridan earlier, several months ago. So we're going to continue to focus on getting those now. We move past 30%, really more of a apparent demonstration of what the sustainability efforts can be and look like. Bike and pedestrian pathways. I have met with Forward Pinellas. We want to integrate this park and coordinate it with the Pinellas Trail. So I think we're getting a lot of comments on that. So we want to start to demonstrate how the pathways and the pedestrian and bikeways will be emphasized and coordinated. I think the public's very concerned about that. Parking management. I know that our Director of Marine and Aviation has a concept in mind for how he will manage the parking. I think we need to send a clearer message to the public about what that is or is going to look like. And I think internally we may need to talk about how we manage it through, paid events and that sort of thing. So I think, right now that's a major concern. So we want to try to, I think be good for us to try to nail down a parking policy sooner rather than later. If for no other reason than the fact that we can talk about it and kind of work our way through it before we're finished with construction. So with that, those are kind of going to be some focus areas with us moving forward with Stantec over about the next 60 days as they conclude their 60% stage. So with that, that's our update.
Very good. Well, thank you all to the entire staff from us for hosting the 5 meetings. I know that they were tough on you, but we appreciate your being out there and getting this information, not just one time, but 5 different times. And you even took a Saturday afternoon and several nights. So thank you all to the whole team on that. And as you indicated, the work isn't done. We're still moving along. Any other comments regarding that, Council? Mr. Albritton.
Yeah, as I said before at the work session, I think when you bring back some of your data, your financial data in January, February, I did go to every public demonstration that you gave, and I actually heard myself what people were concerned about. And so I would like to, at some point, probably in February, perhaps, we have a special work session just to go through a lot of the points that we really need to be talking about as a separate work session than our normal work session or council meeting.
Well, let's see how they come along and see if they need that or whether we can incorporate that as part of our regular meeting. Remember, every time we ask for a meeting, that takes staff away from its work.
Well, I just see between the 30, now we're moving quickly, and I see we're not too far off from the 60%, and we got a lot of decisions to make, so.
Well, they'll give us an update in January, and at that point, we can decide what kind of additional information we need and whether we need another meeting. But like I say, every time we ask staff to do something else, it takes them away from the key work that they're trying to get accomplished. And then we complain, or we hear complaints about why is it taking you so long? Mr. Moore.
One of the things that we want to do now, this design train is moving, we want to make sure that we are in front of that train. And so your decision making will need to be in advance of that. So kind of the timing of when we'd like to come back to you is kind of with respect to that, because the designers are going to be working and they're going to want to know, okay, we're going to do this. Is this what you guys, are you still committed to this? And I think to your point about some of the decisions, especially in some aspects of the amphitheater, I think there's still some fuzziness there that will need to get clarified. So I will come back as soon as just as soon as we need to. What I'm thinking about is no more than a 2-hour workshop session that allows you to more specifically focus on the business at hand. If we don't need all the 2 hours, then we don't have to use it. But that's the framework, I think, that will give us the best feedback that we need.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right. Closing comments, Mr. Cundiff.
Yes, I just wanted to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Horn, do you have any other business for us? Ms. Aiken, do you have anything? Mr. Cundiff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The mayor and I, and I don't remember who else was there. I know a lot of staff was at the Woodlawn Trail Apartments a couple of days ago. And if you get a chance to go out and see these places, you go down Martin Luther King, a couple miles to Woodlawn, just south of the Ross Norton Rec Center, take a right, and a few blocks further west, some beautiful, beautiful apartments, that 80 of them in, I think, 5 buildings, as I recall. And you look at them, you wouldn't think they are affordable housing, but they are. And 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom, They also have a picnic pavilion, dishwashers, energy-efficient windows and lighting, shuffleboard court, which apparently is not standard, or was that just a little bit of humor?
No, it was much wider.
Too wide, yeah. They may have to fix that for state regulations. Anyway, take a look at and see what's happening down there. And I'm just thrilled the affordable housing we've been able to get done the last couple of years with the Garden Street apartments. South, I think that's 80 units, I think, too. Senior Citizens is opening up, and then the new one downtown that's coming will give a lot of our needy population a place to live, and we're happy to have that. But take a look at the Woodlawn Trail. You'll be impressed, I think, as I was.
Mr. Pugliese.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to comment on affordable housing. I served on the Homeless Leadership Board for 4 years, and it's not just the biggest problem in the state of Florida, it's the biggest problem across the country. The city of Clearwater does a very good job taking state funds, federal funds, and its own taxpayer funds and matching grants to leverage the maximum amount of money. But what we can't do, taxpayers of Clearwater cannot buy every vacant lot and put affordable workforce housing on it. So it is a team effort. If we could get all of our community millionaires, billionaires to step up to the plate, because it's essential. Most people don't know that first-year cops and firefighters need workforce housing, because unless both of them work in the household, they can't afford a $200,000 house, and that's the average price of a house right now. So it is a challenge, but it's not solely unique to the citizens of Clearwater.
Mr. Albritton.
I'm just looking forward to 2020 and all the things that are coming out of Imagine Clearwater that we're going to be talking about, and we've got a lot of other things that we'll be talking about as well. It's going to be a very busy year, so until then, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Mr. Hamilton.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hope everybody survives all that family time you're going to experience over the holiday.
All right. Well, on Saturday, the 21st, it's the holiday movie night at Station Square Park. It's The Grinch, and the fun will start at 6 p.m. On the 23rd, Monday, in front of the Surf Style, we're going to have a Hanukkah celebration. The event starts at 4 o'clock, and there will be a lighting of a menorah there. Our Clearwater Library and Recreation Centers will be closing early on the 24th, and remind everybody that city offices are closed both on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day. On Monday, the 30th of December, is our Outback Bowl Beach Day at the Clearwater Beach Hilton. We're going to have Auburn University, the War Eagles from Auburn, Alabama, and the Minnesota Golden Gophers. This is the first trip that Minnesota has had to the Outback Bowl. The marching bands will be there. We're going to have music, skydivers, a tug of war with the cheerleaders of the pep rally. That starts on Monday at 11 o'clock in the morning, December the 30th. Again, remember that on Tuesday, the 31st, our library and rec centers will be closing early. Fireworks on Clearwater Beach at midnight. Our offices will be closed on January the 1st, and everybody will be back on Thursday, January the 2nd. To everybody from all of us, first to our staff, thank you very much for the work that y'all have done over the last year for not only the council but also the citizens. We've had a good year, and we can be proud of the work that y'all have done, and we thank you not only for the work but the sacrifices you and your families have made. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, a Merry Christmas, or as we say in my native tongue, Kalakistuyira. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, January the 16th at 6 o'clock. We are adjourned.